Toxic monogamy or polyfemtopia. Why strict monogamy owns? Monogamy is difficult. If we look at the animal kingdom, there are not many monogamous species, and even fewer that are strict monogamous. Often the species we once thought to be in pairs for life, like for instance swans, are only serial monogamous, just for the raising of offspring under one season. And serial monogamy is technically polygyny or sometimes polyandry. And even many of these relations are only socially monogamous, not sexually. So promiscuity have obviously many evolutionary advantages. Sometimes you hear the argument that promiscuity is natural to humans and most primates, and therefore should just be accepted. In reality, things are complicated when it comes to sex and mating habits and strategies. And there is no answer, just as if was an equation to solve. The evolution is a law, just as the law of gravity, and there is not a shred of intention involved. So you cannot really claim any behavior to be right or wrong, natural or unnatural. From a moral point of view though, what is good and what is bad for most of us, things such as monogamy, promiscuity, and polygamy may very well be discussed. The transition to monogamy is not easily explained, the main obstacle supposed to be the risk of cuckoldry. It's like a certain grade of societal development first had to be reached. A collective susceptibility to laws, justice, morals, discipline, and maybe empathy. For those interested in the rise, and fall, of monogamy, there are a lot of resources, books, and internet articles. The most debated is probably the book by Ryan and Jetha published in 2010 named Sex at Dawn. Their main conclusion is that humans have a very promiscuous past, men and women alike. They have been both criticized and supported. Some from a Flintstonian perspective, while others claim the males only were promiscuous. In the times we were foragers, life was very different and promiscuity was probably the right thing as it served the evolution of our species. There were no DNA tests and all the males were collective fathers. Times were extremely harsh and life expectancy short. The tribe had to cooperate, no privacy, everything must be shared, even sex to a great extent, to impede costly violence. Genes were occasionally exchanged with other tribes, by feasts or by war. Approximately 1 male out of 3 procreated. Life was hard, especially for men, but also women suffered from complicated childbirths. Population growth was slow and therefore the woman was highly valued and respected. Then came the agricultural revolution about 12,000 years ago, and everything changed to the worse. Polygyny and female hoarding became normal. Male sexlessness was enormous, and life unstable. At worst only 1 male out of 17 procreated. But population could grow faster than before due to increased food production. For some reason monogamy got momentum in Greece some 3,000 years ago, increased and spread around the Levant and Mediterranean. Due to its many advantages it stabilized societies and outcompeted polygyny. In due time it was adopted by the Roman Empire and later transferred to the Western world enforced by Christianity. As a whole monogamy have societal advantages, still it is not necessarily so for the particular individual, male or female. Promiscuity have mostly led to a rude and competitive mating system where the majority of males would not procreate and the females had to a great extent care for their offspring alone, since one top male's protection and providing was shared by many females. This is a system working well in a, let's call it, animalistic system, like for instance among deers, where the mother herself can take care of the calf for one season. But the humans are very different. The children have to be taken care of for almost 20 years. That's why monogamy is a superior system. But it does not come very natural right away. It relies on our ability to handle and suppress our old competing promiscuous instincts. That we can do thanks to our large-sized brains. Monogamy is a civilized mating and parenting model and thus partly a societal construct, and we have in a way been learned to embrace it. In reality it's not very different from how we handle other destructive temptations in order to build a well-functioning society. We must have laws and regulations that prevent people to behave too selfishly, while it would create an unbalanced, unstable, and rude society for all. Sex is not different, it has to be controlled in some way, for both genders of course, otherwise we are back in an rude, animalistic, unsafe and uncivilized way of life. A child that gets everything it points at right away will be spoiled and not very happy in the long run. We have to learn our children to be able to resist immediate wishes, learn to save and wait for a postponed, and better, gratification. It could be the same with monogamy versus promiscuity. People should, in my humble opinion, marry young, be virgins, get help and advice from parents and relatives to start an exclusive family, knowing from the start that life is not a party and that the obligation to care for the next generation is often troublesome, but rewarding. It's one of the many big mistakes of young modern women to only look for a man that seems to be innate confident, often called Chad. For most men, confidence is something not very innate but developed over time, provided the conditions are favorable. One of these critical conditions is that young females, teens, could not and should not be able to exercise hypergamy and promiscuity. If they do, they will, as is evident today, go straight for the top 10% confident guys, giving the rest of the males no chance to become the type of males that the women want them to be, and in the end leaving them without a life partner. The young couple should also know the sexual urges stemming from our promiscuous past, thus be able to counteract and overcome them. In a coming video, Monogamy Part 2, I will try to outline the possibilities to establish favorable conditions for a lasting and happy relationship. Likewise, I will try to explain why promiscuity is so tantalizing, its evolutionary explanations, and why it's such a treat to monogamy despite of its irrelevance in today's society from an evolutionary perspective. The normalization of promiscuity and the pronification of today's society is a problem of lethal importance. It creates masses of sexless males, lonely and depressed females, and no children, and it will doubtlessly lead to a decay of society. We must find a way, not back to the 50s, but forward to a new, monogamish 30s. Many studies has shown that a relationship is far happier and lasts longer when both partners have a zero body count when committing. Remember the unassailable tenet. No hymen, no diamond. Bye.